Salutations, my fellow dudes and dudettes, and welcome back to Sonic CD. Last time, we got through Tunnel Tempest and Quartz Quadrant, some of my favorite levels in the game, and now we're doing the complete opposite of those levels, and now we're tackling two of the worst levels in the game, if not the worst levels in the game. I honestly think the last zone is not as bad. I mean, it's going to be very dangerous, obviously, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Welcome to Wacky Workbench. And you can already tell by the gimmick with this zone is that there's a bunch of springs all over the place. And, like, oh boy. Basically how it works is whenever you land on the ground, where it's flashing, you might want to minimize the screen for the entirety of this zone because it does flash a lot. It not like to an absurd degree, but like you'll see the background flash a little bit, like here, and the bottom tiles that launch you high up into the sky, they also flash constantly. But yeah, that is the main idea behind Wacky Workbench. You're constantly bouncing all over the place, and it could make traversing through the level a tiresome feat, especially when you're going after the robot generators. Since I managed to get all the time stones, they're already going to be broken when I find them. I will admit I had to do a bit of editing, because I won't lie, I didn't exactly practice these zones. I figured now that I had the time stones, I'd try to do this all in one sitting, and I was clumsily like consulting a map for the zone simultaneously. Clearly I should have just practiced these zones instead of taking the cheap way out. But basically what you want to do, in order to find the robot generator, you're going to want to stay on the lower path, at least temporarily, because you're going to come to this area right over there. And the robot generator is actually in there, but unfortunately, it's a you can't get through that door. So in order to properly get to that robot generator, again, that is where the editing came into play. You're gonna go up all the way to the top, not to the right, to the left, or is it to the right? Yeah, it's to the left. You might have noticed that barrel above us. That's where we want to go. And I like to question the thought process that was going through their minds when it came to trying to get to this robot generator, because you would think that barrel would crush you, but no. It pushes you into the pipe, and it brings you all the way to here. Not only do you get to bust the robot generator, there's also an extra life for you. So take full advantage of that. Granted, and I feel as if I should address this now. I don't think this game is particularly difficult. The bosses aren't tough, just very different in execution because of how you're supposed to approach each boss fight. It's not a matter of just bonking Robotnik on the head 8 times and you're done. It's a matter of how to even hit Robotnik in the first place. But as for the levels themselves, they're actually pretty tame. I can honestly argue that this game might be a little bit easier than Sonic 2. It's completely my opinion. If you disagree, that's totally fine. But, you know, with zones like Oil Ocean, Metropolis, and heck, even Death Egg, like, those levels are very dangerous. Death Egg especially because you don't have any rings. And to jump the gun a little bit, the final boss for this game, you have rings. And it's not necessary, and the boss itself is not necessarily challenging. Also, just a heads up, I was completely terrible at the boss fight. Alright, so here's what you want to do to get to this robot generator. The robot generator is actually right underneath where the level starts. What you want to do is you want to get to that pass section, and then You go through that little hole that I actually found for the very first time. I was struggling to figure out how to do it, and that's how you do it, legitimately. Hopefully it wasn't because of clipping. I would feel very bad if you were to try this yourself, and it turns out you can't do it. Anyways, you travel to the past, you come back to the beginning, and you can get to the robot generator. The reason why you couldn't beforehand is well, once you get launched off with that little slide thing, whatever the heck you want to call that, there's no way to make it back to the top. At least not without traveling in time, because as high as those things, as the ground bounces you, it just doesn't bounce you high enough. So what you do is you travel to the past, and then there will be higher, like, trampoline floors. Disregard this. I'm going backwards, and it took me a minute to realize it. And it's not like I need the rings for anything. I got all the time stones. I mentioned before that my preference for soundtracks depends on the level. Some tracks I like better for Japanese versus US. In Quartz Quadrant's case, I prefer the Japanese version. This level, I prefer the US version. It's not that the Japanese one is bad, it just doesn't do for me as much as the US one. And again, I'll be showing that off in due time. A couple things I'm not going to be able to show off. In part 1, I showed that there was a bunch of unlockables you could get in the form of like the DA garden and visual mode. I was doing a bit of research, so I knew what I was getting myself into, and I decided to not do it because I was not confident that I could do it to unlock them, because the prerequisite is that for like the DA garden or like the sound test or whatever, you need to do the time attack mode available for this game, and you need to beat the game within under 37 minutes. And I'm not confident enough with my experience with this game, because it's no near as high as like Sonic 1, 2, or even 3. And not to mention, some of these levels could be quite long if you're not careful. There's also 1 or 2 boss fights that I can struggle with. It's not like this game is really long. It's just, again, I know I'm copping out, but I just wasn't confident that I can meet that time requirement. That's how you unlock one of the secrets. The other one is by doing it in under half an hour, so it's now even you now have to do it faster than before. I feel like the requirements are only really meetable with enough practice, or just strictly by speedrunners. I think there was another one you could unlock by beating the time attack under 25 minutes, and I'm not going to be able to do that in this lifetime. I'm not that skilled at this sort of game. Like, there's not a single game I would be able to professionally speedrun. I'm just not confident in my ability to do so. Not that I can't praise those that can. Kudos to those kinds of people. And if some of you are watching, well, I commend you. But as things stand, it's not something I could confidently do. I mean, I might be able to speedrun Sonic 2, but I gotta get myself in the mindset. Anyway, I'm really rambling about speedruns and unlockable stuff that I'm not going to be able to show off, which is sad, because I really wanted to show it off. In the original Sonic CD, like, all you had to do to unlock it was get the best ending, like get all the time stones, or get all the robot generators. That's all you had to do. I kind of wish that's how I did it, because at the very least, I would have realized that I'd made a fatal mistake when I decided not to go get the robot, to at least show off the robot generator in Metallic Madness. I say that, I could, the robot generator is right here, for those that are curious. I say that, but it's like, once you get all the time stones, they automatically break. The thing that doesn't make any sense to me, though, is that, like, you break the robot generators, you get the good future for that zone, especially in the third act. Like, you play the third act, the boss act, with the good future aesthetic. But for some odd reason, you get all the time stones, it no longer applies. You just get the bad future for them all. It's still, the game still tells you you got the good future. That was embarrassing, I apologize. But like, the game tells you got a good future, but for some bizarre reason, I wish I knew why this was the case, but you always end up playing the bad future anyways, for that zone, despite the fact you got all the time stones. That's not the case for the final zone, but in the case of Wacky Workbench and this zone, Stardust Speedway, which is also not a good level. I feel like it's better than Wacky Workbench, but it's probably only because it's a faster level. But the level design is very disorienting because there's a lot of dead ends with a lot of these, like, with a lot of these tube sections. And not for nothing, in the second act, there's a section of the zone where, like, you'll be going super fast, and then there's going to be a spring that'll bounce you into, like, one of those, like, spring-like cannons, like the barrel cannons from Donkey Kong Country. They have something like that with the springs in this particular act. Basically, what will happen is you're going through the zone, you're having a good time, you're going really fast, and then you hit a spring that shoots you diagonally upwards, and then you get launched into one of those springs, and some of those springs, they determine which way you launch on their own. Like, the second you fly, you enter one of them, you automatically get launched in the direction they're facing. Some of them, you could actually, with others in question, you can actually determine which way you're getting shot out. But in most cases, you're not. So you get hit. So you get launched by the spring into one of these cannons, and then next thing you know, you're going backwards into the level because that cannon shot you backwards, and now you're speeding through and now you're going backwards at 80 miles per hour. And that can be very irritating. You could be stuck in this level for a little long, not too long, but don't be shocked if you get stuck in here for like 30 to 60 seconds. See, right there. If it wasn't for me changing the past, the level design wouldn't, like, obstruct me, wouldn't have caught me, and I would have been going backwards. It's just not a fun level. At first, like, when I first played this game, I thought it was great, and if it means anything, the music for Stardust Speedway is incredible. I love this track. Minus the one verse in the song. I'm sorry. And I apologize if I butcher this, but there's one particular part of the track where it just goes, it's like, who is that? Why is he doing that? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to complain about something so stupid. But welcome to Stardust Speed. Yeah, see, it's in the background right now. But welcome to Stardust Speedway Act 3, and now we are face to face with someone we met at the beginning of the game. Well, technically the second zone, but whatever. Also, you apparently get an achievement for breaking all the robot generators and the Metal Sonic holograms throughout the game for all the levels. Alright, so with the Metal Sonic boss, one second. Taking a whisk of my Dr. Pepper, really good. But with Metal Sonic, it's not exactly a boss fight as much as it is a race. You're constantly racing to the end with Metal Sonic, and there's a lot of upward slopes that can slow your momentum down a bit. Metal Sonic also has two forms of attacks. It depends on whether you're ahead or behind him. If you're behind him, he'll do this like electrical force field thing where he's flashing red and blue. If you're ahead of him, he'll essentially be surrounded by this gold aura, essentially, and he'll charge right through you and past you. If you get hit by Robotnik, just a heads up, you will die. I got this on my first try, but yay, we saved Amy. But apparently Sonic, something happened with Sonic. I guess he had some sort of memory lapse or something because he was lost in thought for so long, and it's like, Sonic, where you going, Sonic? Sorry, Amy, I left the oven on. I'll be right back. It's okay. Amy will be fine. She's an independent girl. She can get herself down. I forgot to cut that out. Oh well. Anyways, next time after Sonic comes back from turning his oven off or delivering the milk, whatever errand he got sidetracked by, we'll tackle the end of the game with Metallic Madness. So until then, I got a juice.